Hi, my name is Asma Nahai Antoine. I'm the manager of Indigenous Education and Student Services here at Royal Roads University. I'm going to talk to you about talking circles and the uses and methods and guidelines for it. Traditionally, as a facilitator, when you're working within talking circles, when you first begin, you want to begin in a good way, so you start with an opening prayer, or you start by introducing who you are, your intentions of your circle, and why you're gathering together. And as you begin, one of the things you would like to look for in the room is if there's an elder in the room. And if there's an elder in the room, you would ask if they want to provide an opening comments or do a prayer, or ask them to be the first ones to begin. So ideally, when you're starting a talking circle, you set up the chairs in a circle. You can put a blanket down in the middle, and the blanket actually becomes an altar of medicines, and it also creates an opportunity for those who have anything that's on them. Sometimes people have necklaces or a piece of jewelry, or they carry something in their pocket that represents something, resembles usually a family to them, and it allows them to place it down on the altar. The altar there is symbolic for people to be comfortable and to utilize that time and space to be present to the work that's about to be done in a talking circle. So you're able to focus. So the facilitator will begin in explaining what the altar is and why they have it, and then traditionally when the facilitator is done talking and introducing themselves, they would ask each and every one in the room to go around and introduce themselves. Now that can be timely, and because talking circles do tend to take a lot of time, you want to give yourself enough time, more time than usual, to be able to let people have that opportunity to talk. So as a facilitator, when you're sitting in the circle, you can either go left or you can go right, whoever would be talking next. Traditionally, I usually go to my right, and so whoever's sitting to my right would be the next person to introduce themselves. So name, where they're from, what they're doing there, and I usually like to get the participants to talk about and to name their mother or their father while they're introducing themselves. It's to bring back their family roots. Now, ideally, that may trigger, even in that first round of introductions, could trigger an emotion because a parent has passed, or because they don't have a strong relationship with that parent, or something. But ideally, when it does, giving each person that time and energy to talk and work through that whatever's going on for them at that time without rushing them. So ideally, when you're sitting in a talking circle, you have an object, whether it's a rock or a feather or something that that symbolizes whoever has that object in their hand. They would be the only ones to talk. So if it gets to a person who, if you decide to use say an eagle feather, now an eagle feather has really deep symbolic healing energies to it, as the eagle represents flying the high. It's one of the birds that flies highest to our Creator, which is the messenger between this physical world and the spiritual world. Because of that symbolism, when you're a woman and you're on your moon time or your period, you don't want to touch that feather, because you mix up the energies between the medicines and yourself, because you're organically cleansing yourself. So the person, if you are on your moon time or feather, you wouldn't take the feather. The person who's sitting to your left or your right of you, whichever way you decide to go in the circle, would pass the feather for you and hold it until you're done talking. So if the feather or the object gets to a person who starts to become emotionally tied into the topic that they're talking about at that time, you would want to make sure the person to the left and the right of them would be taking care of them during that time. Because again, because you're in a talking circle, only one person is talking at a time. One person is going through that emotion at a time. and you just sit quietly and you let them. The person to the left or right would take care of them by passing them tissue or water, taking care of them with those things that are needed. Now tissue, when you're handing a box of tissue, it's very clear to say you're handing the box of tissue when you're facilitating group, talking about the guidelines, that the tissue isn't a symbol to say to stop crying, it's a symbol that you're taking care of them. So remember when you're handing them the tissue, it's not saying stop crying because it's making you uncomfortable. And maybe it is, but we're not saying it. Instead, you're taking care of the person that's in need. So as the talking circle starts, you're being conscious of time, you're being conscious of intentions of why you're there. You're talking about the guidelines at the beginning to say, okay, so remember whoever has the object is speaking, is the only one speaking. There's no crosstalk. And as you're going through different guidelines within a talking circle, as a facilitator, you want to ask the group, is there anything else that I'm missing? So some will say, well, what if somebody walks in to the room after the talking circle begins? What is the protocols around that? Are they welcome to just come in and join and sit, or is it better for them to wait at the door? Those kinds of things would be talked amongst the group about what is it, creating those guidelines together and then starting your talking circle, going through all of that. Ideally, when a talking circle starts, it starts and it doesn't end until the last person to the facilitator has spoken. And ideally, you're not getting up in and you're not walking in and out of the talking circle. You're staying put. So making sure all the participants know to get the food or to get the things that they need before they come into the talking circle. And as the talking circles started to, one of the other suggestions, well actually, I would create a guideline in the beginning, is no electronics, no cell phones on, no computers, no iPads, no iPods, any of those things. It would just be yourself sitting presently, listening attentively, and with open ears, open heart, open mind, open spirit, listening to those rules, I guess, of your talking circle. A talking circle also is able to provide a strong protocol to not just the group, but also understanding that there's sometimes different organic rules that come with it, and that sometimes people just don't know what they're doing, and that's okay too. So sometimes we have those questions and we're unsure, but when you're in a talking circle, one person talking at a time, you just know your answers will come to you, maybe not that day, but maybe another day. So, but the facilitator is usually great at creating those spaces. Another thing is, in the beginning of the talking circle, like, so outside of Snuckwa Island, there's the nail. There's a nail that's nailed outside there, and that's a very symbolic to be able to hang up any negative emotions or other business that you may have that's going on in your mind or in your heart, or any judgments that you may have, that you're walking through and into that circle with a clear heart, clear mind, and clear spirit. So you're there with the best intentions that you have. I think, did I leave anything out?
I think the only thing is just a quick little capsule on the overview of what a talking circle is. So it's what did you say last time? It's a good place. It's a good for people to come in. You know what? Maybe you did capture it all. Yeah, open heart. Yeah.
Open heart, open mind, open
Yeah.
spirit.
Yeah.
Talking circle is a
Everyone takes their turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A talking circle. Well, a talking circle is a great tool to have, and a great way to create order and to create different protocols in order for everyone to be taking care of each other and to be open-hearted, open-minded, and open-spirited, and to care for that. Now, ideally, because some may not have the voice to speak up immediately, that you want to give them that opportunity to pass. They don't need to talk if they don't feel comfortable, and that's okay. So if the feather comes to them, ideally you still want them to introduce themselves, even if it's just their name. But if it's going around in circle, it's not a participation, it's a volunteer participation of what you would like to say. So you want to make sure that you're allowing that time and space for them to say, oh no, and we pass the feather, or coming up with a phrase that works for them. Sometimes we would just say all my relations and on to the next person. So again, just being really cautious of that not everybody wants to talk in the talking circle, and they're just there to listen, and even their presence is participation. So I'm trying to think if I missed anything else.
I think that's
Captured it
wonderful.
all.
Yeah, I think you did a great job
Okay.
the second time too.